Translators observe from the gallery. Major Cole Tanner's voice cuts through the combat simulation room like a blade scraping concrete. His tone carries that particular brand of contempt reserved for people he's already decided don't belong. The kind of voice that's ended careers before they started. Captain Lena Voss stands at the edge of the training mat, hands clasped behind her back, posture parade ground perfect. The fluorescent lights overhead hum their monotonous tune, reflecting off the polished floor where 15 multinational personnel watch this exchange with varying degrees of interest. Danish observers lean against the wall. British SAS sergeants check their watches. A German liaison types notes on a tablet. Cole takes 3 steps toward her, boots squeaking on the tactical mat. He's big, the kind of big that comes from years of compound lifts and protein shakes, and the certainty that physical presence equals authority. His instructor patch catches the light, seal trident gleaming on his chest like a warning label. "Captain Voss," he says, drawing out her rank like it's a joke he's still figuring out the punchline to. "You're linguistics, correct? Translation services?" Lena nods once. Her expression doesn't shift. Not bored, not intimidated, just present. "Then you'll understand when I say this room is for operators, people who've earned the right to bleed on this mat." Cole spreads his arms, addressing the room now, playing to his audience. "We don't do participation trophies here. We do close quarters combat, live drills, the kind of training that separates weekend warriors from actual warfighters." A few chuckles ripple through the observers. Not everyone finds him charming, but enough do. That's how men like Cole survive, Lena thinks. They collect just enough allies to make dissent look like bitterness. She takes 1 step forward. "Major, I'm requesting participation in today's drill sequence." The room goes quiet in that specific way spaces do when someone's just made a tactical error. Cole's eyebrows rise. He glances at the British sergeant near the door, a man named Grant Hayes, who's watching this exchange with the careful neutrality of someone who's seen this movie before and knows how it ends. "You're requesting," Cole repeats slowly, "to participate." "Yes, sir." "In close quarters combat demonstration." "Correct." Cole rocks back on his heels, arms crossing over his chest. He's smiling now, the kind of smile that doesn't involve eyes. "Tell you what, Captain, since you're so eager, why don't we start simple? I'll demonstrate a basic disarm technique. You can observe, learn what real operators do when things get messy." He doesn't wait for her response, just turns to the center mat, motioning her forward with the casual arrogance of someone who's never had to question whether his orders will be followed. Lena moves to the designated position. Her breathing stays even. 4 count in, 4 count hold, 4 count out, 4 count hold. The pattern automatic, a rhythm her body remembers even when her mind is cataloging exit routes and sight lines and the exact distance between Cole's center mass and the nearest wall-mounted camera. "Ready position," Cole announces to the room. He's not looking at her now. He's looking at his audience, making sure they're watching, making sure this moment gets witnessed. The key to any disarm is speed and commitment. Hesitation gets you killed. Translators hesitate. Operators commit. He moves without warning. His right elbow drives toward her face with the full weight of 220 pounds behind it, technique abandoned for pure force. Not a demonstration, not a drill, just violence dressed up as instruction. The impact is immediate and absolute. Her head snaps back, the crack of bone on bone echoing through the room like a starter pistol. Blood fills her mouth instantly, that familiar copper taste, and she's falling, knees hitting the mat with a sound that makes several observers wince. The room holds its breath. Lena stays on one knee. Blood drips from her split lip onto the tactical mat, each drop landing with soft precision. Splat, splat, splat. She doesn't raise her hand to her face, doesn't cry out, just breathes. 4 count in, 4 count hold, 4 count out, 4 count hold. Her left hand finds the mat edge. Fingers spread precisely, thumb aligned with first knuckle, palm flat, weight distributed through the heel of her hand. Textbook stabilization. The kind of positioning that only comes from thousands of repetitions. Muscle memory forged in places where getting it wrong meant not going home. Grant Hayes straightens from his position against the wall. His eyes narrow fractionally, focus shifting from casual observation to active assessment. That grip. That's not translator training. That's operator foundation work. Cole dusts his hands together, turns to address the room like he's just completed a successful cooking demonstration. "See? Commitment. She's still conscious because I pulled that strike. In the field, that's a knockout. Translators don't have the conditioning for this level of Major. Colonel Isaac Monroe's voice cuts through Cole's monologue like a fire alarm. He's standing in the control booth doorway, tablet in hand, expression carved from granite. What exactly just occurred here? Cole pivots smoothly, posture shifting to professional deference. Sir, demonstrating disarm technique. Captain Voss requested participation. I was showing her the realities of close quarters engagement. Monroe descends the 3 steps from the booth, eyes locked on Lena. She's rising now, slow and controlled, blood still trailing from her lip, but her balance perfect. No wobble, no hand to the wall, just vertical, like someone pulled her up with strings. Captain, Monroe says quietly, do you require medical attention? Lena meets his gaze. Her left eye is already starting to swell, the tissue around her cheekbone darkening toward purple. Negative, sir. You're bleeding. Observed, sir. Monroe's jaw tightens. He looks at Cole, then back to Lena, then at the wall-mounted scanner array that's been tracking biometrics since the room was occupied. One of the panels is flickering, red light pulsing in irregular patterns. The kind of malfunction that's usually not a malfunction at all. This drill session is concluded, Monroe announces. All personnel, 15-minute break. Major Tanner, Captain Voss, you'll remain. The room empties with the efficient silence of people who've learned not to argue with colonels. Grant Hayes is the last to leave, pausing at the door long enough to catch Lena's eye. He nods once, fractional, before disappearing into the corridor. When the door clicks shut, Monroe crosses his arms. Major, you want to explain why you just struck a superior officer? Cole's confidence doesn't even flicker. Sir, with respect, she's linguistics, not combat rated. I was demonstrating the difference between... You drove your elbow into her face at full force. Monroe's voice stays level, which somehow makes it worse. That's not instruction, that's assault. She requested participation, sir. I was showing her the reality of... The reality, Monroe interrupts, is that you just created an incident that requires documentation, medical evaluation, and witness statements in a room full of international observers. Do you understand the diplomatic complications you've just activated? Cole's smile finally falters. Just a crack, but it's there. Sir, I didn't mean to... What you meant is irrelevant. What happened is on 3 different camera angles and a biometric scanner that registered her blood when it hit the sensor zone. Monroe turns to Lena. Captain, I'm ordering you to Medical Bay for evaluation. You're also entitled to file a formal complaint through JAG. If this moment felt familiar, you're not alone. Real operators know that silence speaks louder than rank. Hit that subscribe button because this story is just getting started. And trust me, you'll want to see what happens when the translator stops translating and starts demonstrating. And if you're feeling generous, that thanks button helps us keep bringing you stories where the underdog doesn't just survive, they redefine the game. Lena wipes blood from her chin with the back of her hand. Respectfully, sir, no complaint. Accidents happen during training. Monroe stares at her for 3 full seconds. That wasn't an accident. Then it was a learning opportunity. Her voice stays flat, professional, empty of everything except the bare minimum required for military courtesy. Permission to return to quarters, sir? Monroe exhales through his nose, the sound of a man realizing he's dealing with something more complicated than a simple disciplinary issue. Granted, but medical eval is non-negotiable. I'm putting it in writing. Understood, sir. She turns to leave, posture still perfect despite the blood now drying on her chin. As she passes Cole, she doesn't look at him, doesn't acknowledge his existence, just walks past like he's furniture. And somehow, that's worse than any comeback she could have delivered. The door closes behind her. Monroe rounds on Cole. You're confined to quarters pending investigation. I want your statement in writing by 1800 hours. Include every detail, because if I find out you're sanitizing this, you'll wish you'd taken the honest route. Cole's jaw works. Sir, she's just a translator. She doesn't have the... I don't care if she's the base chaplain. You struck a superior officer in front of witnesses. Now get out of my sight before I add insubordination to the list. Cole leaves. The door whispers shut. Monroe stands alone in the training room, looking at the blood drops on the tactical mat. They form a small constellation, each drop precisely spaced, like someone was bleeding with discipline. His tablet chirps. He glances down at the notification. Biometric anomaly detected. Partial match. Insufficient data. He frowns, taps the alert, watches as the screen populates with a file request prompt. The system is trying to match Lena's biometric signature against archived databases, but something is blocking full access. Classification protocols, the kind that require command-level authorization just to see what's being hidden. Monroe screenshots the alert. Then he opens a secure message channel and types 3 words: "Run Dragon Seal." The reply comes back in 4 seconds. Query restricted. Authorization level insufficient. He pockets the tablet and walks out of the training room, leaving the blood on the mat to dry under fluorescent lights that hum their indifferent song to an empty space. 3 hours later, the dining facility is serving what passes for international cuisine, which means pasta that's been sitting under heat lamps long enough to achieve the texture of rubber, and chicken that might have been edible before someone decided to bake it into submission. Lena sits alone at a corner table, medical clearance form folded in her pocket, ice pack pressed against her left cheek. The swelling has gotten worse. Her eye is half closed now, the bruise spreading down toward her jawline in shades of purple and green. She eats mechanically, fork moving from plate to mouth with the efficiency of someone who views food as fuel rather than experience. Cole enters the DFAC with his usual entourage, 3 junior officers who laugh at his jokes and nod at his wisdom and generally behave like remora fish attached to a shark. He sees Lena immediately. Everyone does. A woman eating alone with a black eye tends to draw attention, even on a military base where violence is technically the job description. He detours to her table. Captain Voss. His tone is lighter now, almost friendly, the voice of someone who's decided that charm is a better weapon than fists. How's the face? Lena looks up, doesn't smile, doesn't frown, just looks. Functional. Good, good. Look, about earlier. Things got a little intense. You know how drills are. Heat of the moment, no hard feelings, right? She sets her fork down with precise care. Major, are you apologizing? I'm saying we're professionals. We both understand how training works. Sometimes people get hurt, part of the job. Interesting perspective. So we're good? He's leaning in now, trying for camaraderie, for shared understanding, for anything that will let him file this incident under mutual agreement and move on. Lena picks up her fork again. We're whatever the investigation determines, sir. Cole's smile freezes. Investigation? Colonel Monroe's orders. Written statements due by 1800 hours. Witness interviews tomorrow. Standard procedure for training accidents. The remora fish exchange glances. One of them, a lieutenant whose name Lena hasn't bothered learning, clears his throat. Captain, nobody wants to make this a big deal. Like the major said, things happen during drills. Maybe we all just move on? Lena chews her pasta slowly, swallows, dabs her mouth with a napkin that comes away pink from the blood still seeping from her split lip. Lieutenant, when you file your witness statement, please include that suggestion. I'm sure the colonel will find it illuminating. Cole's hand clenches on the back of the empty chair beside her. You're making a mistake. That's possible. Lena returns to her meal. But it's my mistake to make, sir. They leave. The conversation at nearby tables resumes its previous volume. That low buzz of multilingual chatter that characterizes any NATO facility where 36 nations try to coordinate over food that none of them find particularly appetizing. Grant Hayes slides into the seat Cole just vacated. He's carrying a tray loaded with the same dubious pasta and rubber chicken, plus a bread roll that could probably stop small arms fire. That was subtle, he says, sawing at his chicken with a plastic knife that bends under the pressure. Subtlety is overrated. Maybe. But making an enemy of Cole Tanner is the kind of career move most people avoid. Grant abandons the chicken, focuses on the pasta instead. He's got friends, the kind who remember favors and hold grudges. Lena drinks from her water bottle, ice pack still pressed to her face with her free hand. Noted. You're linguistics, right? Translation services? What's your background before NATO? Various assignments. That's specific. It's accurate. Grant studies her over his pasta. His eyes are gray, sharp, the kind that miss very little. You held that mat grip like someone who's done a few thousand push-ups. Combat push-ups, not gym push-ups. I exercise. And that breathing pattern, 4 count, that's combat stress management. Rangers use it, SEALs use it, translators don't usually use it. Lena sets down her water bottle. Sergeant Hayes, are you interrogating me? Making conversation. Feels like interrogation. Must be my accent. He grins, the expression transforming his face from careful observer to something almost friendly. Look, I don't know your story and I'm not asking, but Cole's got a reputation. 4 months ago, he ran a similar demonstration with a logistics officer. That guy ended up with a concussion and a medical discharge. Cole claimed it was bad luck, slipped during the drill. And the investigation? Cleared him. Witnesses backed his story. Turned out most of them owed him favors. Grant pushes his tray aside, leans forward slightly. What I'm saying is, if you're planning to fight this, you're fighting more than one man. You're fighting a network. Lena meets his gaze. Her good eye is steady, clear, empty of fear or anger or anything resembling concern. Thank you for the warning. Is that all you're going to say? What else is there? Grant laughs, short and sharp. Fair enough. Just do me a favor. Watch your back. Cole doesn't like people who make him look bad, and you made him look very bad. He stands, collects his tray, walks away without waiting for a response. Lena finishes her meal in silence, then cleans her space with the same methodical precision she applies to everything else. Tray to the collection point. Utensils sorted. Table wiped down. She walks out of the DFAC with her ice pack and her bruised face and her perfectly controlled breathing, and if anyone notices the way her left hand stays near her side, fingers positioned like she's ready to draw a weapon that isn't there, they don't mention it. The next morning arrives with the enthusiasm of a root canal. Lena wakes at 5 a.m., runs her usual circuit around the base perimeter. 3 miles at 7-minute pace, breathing controlled, stride even despite the throbbing in her face, and arrives at the advanced training roster posting by 6:15. Her name isn't on it. She reads the list twice, checks the date, confirms the training block. Advanced close quarters battle, week 2, qualification track. 12 names. Hers isn't among them. The range officer, a Danish captain named Mikkelsen, arrives at 6:20 carrying coffee that smells significantly better than anything the DFAC produces. He sees her standing there, notepad in hand, and his expression shifts into something apologetic. Captain Voss? Captain Mikkelsen. She taps her notepad against her thigh once. There's been an error with the training roster. No error. He sips his coffee, avoiding eye contact. Major Tanner submitted a revised list last night, said you'd been removed due to medical evaluation. My medical clearance was filed at 1700 hours yesterday. Full duty status. Then you'll need to take that up with Major Tanner. Mikkelsen unlocks the range office door, clearly hoping this conversation will end before it gets uncomfortable. I just post the names I'm given. Lena doesn't move. Captain, with respect, who authorized the roster change? Like I said, Major Tanner. Major Tanner doesn't have authorization over NATO training schedules. That requires coordination through the duty officer and approval from— Look, Mikkelsen turns, coffee cup held like a shield. I don't want trouble. I was told you're off the list. If you have a problem with that, file a complaint. But I'm not putting you on a range when the senior instructor says you're not cleared. Even though I am cleared. Even though. He disappears into his office. The door closes with finality. Lena stands in the corridor for 30 seconds, breathing her 4-count pattern, then walks away. Her boots make no sound on the polished floor. Behind her, through the range office window, Mikkelsen watches her go, then picks up his desk phone and dials a 3-digit internal extension. Yeah, it's me, he says quietly. She was here. Asked about the roster. No, she didn't make a scene, just left. Yeah. No, I don't like it either, but I'm not dying on this hill. You deal with Tanner. He hangs up, returns to his coffee, and tries very hard not to think about the way Captain Voss looked at him. Like she was memorizing his face for later reference. Like she was filing him under a category he definitely didn't want to be filed under. By 1000 hours, the situation has escalated from bureaucratic inconvenience to active sabotage. Lena discovers this when she attempts to access the intelligence briefing room and her security card is declined. Not expired, not temporarily disabled. Declined. As in, someone has revoked her clearance at the access control level. She tries twice more. Same result. Red light. Denied. A corporal at the security desk looks up from his magazine, sees her standing there with her bruised face and her rejected card, and decides very quickly that this is not his problem. Ma'am, you'll need to contact Security Administration. They handle access issues. My clearance was active yesterday. Then something changed. Security admin, Building 7, second floor. Building 7 is on the opposite side of the base. Lena makes the walk in 12 minutes, up 2 flights of stairs, into an office that smells like recycled air and institutional furniture polish. The clerk behind the desk is a German specialist whose name tag reads Fischer, and whose expression suggests he would rather be literally anywhere else. "Captain Voss," she says, placing her ID card on the counter. "My access was revoked this morning. I need to know why." Fischer types without looking at her, fingers moving across the keyboard with practiced indifference. "System shows a flag on your clearance. Pending investigation." "What investigation?" "Doesn't specify. Just says pending review, access limited to essential areas only." "Who initiated the flag?" More typing. Fischer's eyebrows rise fractionally. "Says here it was initiated by security compliance. That usually means someone filed a concern report." "About me?" "That's what it looks like." "Can you tell me who filed it?" "Negative. That information is restricted to the investigating officer." Lena picks up her ID card, examines it like it might explain itself. The photo was taken 3 months ago, before NATO, before this base, before she decided that playing translator was the best way to catch a traitor. She looks different in the picture, less tired, no bruises, same empty expression. "Specialist Fischer, who's the investigating officer?" "For security issues?" Fischer checks his screen. "That would be Colonel Monroe. He handles all clearance flags above basic level." "Thank you." She turns to leave. Fischer calls after her. "Ma'am? For what it's worth, I've processed about 40 of these flags in the last 2 years. Most of them get cleared in 72 hours. Unless there's actual evidence of wrongdoing, it's usually just procedural." Lena pauses at the door. "And if there is evidence? Then 72 hours becomes a lot longer." He returns to his typing. "Good luck." The door closes. Lena stands in the corridor, calculating angles and probabilities, and the likelihood that Cole Tanner has just opened a playbook she's seen before. Discredit, isolate, eliminate. Standard tactics for people who prefer their battles fought in paperwork rather than physical spaces. Her tablet vibrates. She checks the notification. Email. From an address she doesn't recognize. No subject line. The body of the message contains a single attachment. A video file. 4 megabytes. She doesn't open it here. Too many cameras, too many angles, too many people who might be watching to see how she reacts. Instead, she walks to the nearest empty briefing room, locks the door, and plays the video. It's her, in the combat simulation room. Except the footage has been edited. Clever edits, subtle ones, the kind that require technical skill and familiarity with video manipulation software. In the original recording, she disarms a training weapon from Grant Hayes during a demonstration. Clean execution, textbook technique. In this version, the frames have been reordered. Now it looks like she freezes, hesitates, fumbles the disarm. Grant has to correct her grip. The timestamp is authentic. The NATO watermark is authentic. Someone with access to security footage created this fiction and is now distributing it to build a narrative. Lena plays it 3 more times, noting the cut points, the frame splices, the way the audio has been slightly adjusted to mask the edit transitions. Professional work, not amateur hour. She forwards the video to her personal secure server, adds it to a folder labeled Evidence, and deletes the email. Then she sits in the empty briefing room, ice pack pressed to her face again because the swelling hasn't improved, and runs through her options. Option 1. File a formal complaint. Go through channels. Trust the system to identify the manipulation and restore her status. Estimated success rate, 30%. Estimated timeline, 3 weeks minimum. Option 2. Confront Cole directly. Demand he stop. Risk escalation. Risk violence. Risk exposure before the trap is fully set. Success rate, 15%. Timeline, immediate, for better or worse. Option 3. Continue playing translator. Continue absorbing hits. Continue appearing weak and confused and harmless, while evidence accumulates in places Cole doesn't know to look. Success rate 60%. Timeline unknown, but probably not 3 weeks. She chooses option 3. She's been choosing option 3 for 4 months now, ever since she walked onto this base carrying credentials that list her as a linguistics specialist and nothing else. 4 months of watching Cole Tanner swagger through corridors, charm his way through briefings, accept praise for operations he compromised and teammates he betrayed. 4 months of waiting for him to feel safe enough to show his pattern. And now he is. Now he's escalating, removing obstacles, creating documentation that paints her as incompetent. Now he's doing exactly what she needs him to do. Lena leaves the briefing room, walks back to her quarters, and spends the afternoon doing translation work, real work. Pashto intelligence intercepts that need contextual analysis. She's actually good at this, turns out. Languages make sense to her in ways people often don't. Grammar has rules. Syntax has logic. You can predict how a sentence will end based on how it begins. People are messier. People lie. People betray. People bury 11 teammates under sand because admitting they panicked in Somalia would ruin their carefully constructed legend. At 1700 hours, her tablet vibrates again. Another email, this time from Colonel Monroe. Subject line, mandatory meeting 0800 tomorrow. She opens it. The body is brief. Captain Voss, you are required to attend a hearing regarding recent training incidents. Attendance is mandatory. Bring any relevant documentation. Lena reads it twice, then closes her tablet and returns to her translations. The Pashto intercepts are discussing supply routes and ammunition caches and the kinds of tactical details that might matter if anyone was planning operations in that region. She flags 3 items for follow-up, notes a pattern in the communication timing, and files her report by 1800 hours. Then she goes to the gym. The facility is nearly empty this time of day. Most personnel are either at dinner or collapsed in their quarters trying to recover from whatever training brutalized them today. Lena has the weight section to herself. She loads a barbell with 45-pound plates, lies on the bench, and begins her routine. Press, breathe, lower, breathe, press, breathe, lower, breathe. Her face throbs with each repetition. The bruise has spread now, covering half her face in a canvas of purple and green and yellow. Her left eye is still swollen half shut. The cut on her lip has scabbed over but breaks open again when she grimaces during the final rep. Blood drips onto the bench. She wipes it away with her towel, adds more weight, continues. Grant Hayes appears during her 4th set. He doesn't interrupt. Just watches from the doorway, arms crossed, expression thoughtful. When she finishes and sits up, he walks over. You're benching 195 pounds with a face that looks like you lost a fight with a freight train. Lena drinks from her water bottle. I'm maintaining conditioning. You're proving a point. Maybe both. Grant sits on the adjacent bench. I heard about your clearance getting flagged. Also heard about the training roster. News travels fast. News about unusual situations travels very fast. He leans forward, elbows on knees. Cole's building a case. He's collecting witnesses who'll say you're unstable, unreliable, a security risk. By the time he's done, you'll be lucky to translate lunch menus. Then I'll translate lunch menus. You don't care? Lena sets her water bottle down, meets his gaze with her one good eye. Sergeant Hayes, do you know what my favorite part about languages is? No. The subjunctive mood. It's a grammatical form used to express wishes, hypotheticals, situations contrary to fact. In English, we barely use it anymore. But in Pashto, in Dari, in Arabic, it's essential. Because sometimes the most important truths are the ones we state as possibilities rather than certainties. Grant stares at her. I have absolutely no idea what you just said. I know. She stands, collects her towel. Thank you for the warning about Cole. I'll keep it in mind. She leaves him sitting on the bench, looking confused and slightly concerned, which is exactly the reaction she was aiming for. Better he thinks she's philosophical and cryptic than observant and calculating. Better everyone thinks that. Part of staying invisible is knowing when to speak in riddles and when to stay silent. If you're seeing the layers here that most people miss, hit that like button and drop a comment with your theory because I promise you there's more to Captain Voss than anyone suspects. The next part reveals just how deep this goes, so don't miss it. The hearing convenes at 0800 hours in a conference room that's too small and too warm. Colonel Monroe sits at the head of the table, tablet and coffee cup positioned with geometric precision. To his right, Major Cole Tanner, freshly shaved and wearing his dress uniform with every ribbon aligned perfectly. To his left, Captain Mickelson from the range office, looking like he'd rather be diffusing explosives than sitting in this room. Lena enters at 0758, takes the empty chair at the foot of the table, and waits. Monroe opens the session with military efficiency. This hearing is to address concerns raised regarding Captain Lena Voss and her suitability for continued participation in NATO advanced training programs. Major Tanner, you initiated this review. Present your concerns. Cole straightens, slides a folder across the table. Sir, over the past 2 weeks, I've observed behavior from Captain Voss that raises serious questions about her tactical judgment and emotional stability. During the training incident on Monday, she insisted on participating in a drill she wasn't qualified for. When I attempted to demonstrate proper technique, she failed to maintain defensive posture, resulting in her injury. Lena says nothing, just watches. Furthermore, Cole continues, subsequent investigation revealed that Captain Voss has been accessing training materials outside her classification level. She's submitted requests for live ammunition range time. She's been observed in restricted areas after hours. And yesterday, when removed from the advanced training roster for medical reasons, she harassed Captain Mikkelsen, demanding reinstatement. Mikkelsen shifts uncomfortably. Sir, I wouldn't characterize it as harassment. She asked questions about the roster change. Did she accept your explanation? Cole asks. Well, no, but she didn't. She didn't accept chain of command authority. She pressed the issue despite being told the matter was closed. Cole returns his attention to Monroe. Sir, I believe Captain Voss is experiencing stress-related difficulties that make her unsuitable for the operational environment here. I recommend reassignment to a non-tactical position pending psychological evaluation. Monroe has been taking notes. He sets his stylus down, looks at Lena. Captain Voss, you've been quiet. Do you have a response to these allegations? Lena folds her hands on the table. Sir, may I ask Major Tanner a question? Proceed. She looks at Cole. Major, you stated I failed to maintain defensive posture during Monday's drill. Can you describe what proper defensive posture looks like? Cole's expression doesn't change. Hands up, elbows in, weight on the balls of your feet. Basic boxing stance. And you observed me failing to maintain this? Correct. Before or after you drove your elbow into my face? The room temperature drops about 15 degrees. Cole's jaw tightens. Captain, I was demonstrating. A demonstration, Lena interrupts softly, typically involves controlled contact, reduced speed, communication with your partner. You did none of those things. You struck me at full force without warning. That's not instruction. That's assault. I pulled that strike, Cole says. If I hadn't, you'd be unconscious. Then you're admitting you struck me. I'm admitting I demonstrated the reality of combat to someone who clearly needed the lesson. Lena nods slowly. Sir, she addresses Monroe, I'd like to submit evidence for the record. She produces her tablet, cues up a video file, and turns the screen toward the center of the table. This is footage from the Monday training session. Unedited, from the west wall camera. Watch Major Tanner's approach. They watch. The silence in the room is surgical. On screen, Cole moves toward Lena without any of the preparatory signals that usually precede training contact. No verbal warning, no adjustment of speed, no positioning for controlled demonstration, just forward momentum and then impact. The sound of her face being struck is worse somehow when played back through tablet speakers. Small and sharp and final. Monroe's expression could freeze steel. Major Tanner, that doesn't look like a pulled strike. Cole leans back, spreading his hands. Sir, camera angles can be deceiving. I maintain that I reduced force. Captain Voss's injury is unfortunate but resulted from her inexperience. Interesting perspective, Lena says. Because the biometric sensors in that room recorded impact force. Would you like me to pull those records? Cole's eyes narrow. The sensors aren't calibrated for individual strikes. Actually, they are. NATO upgraded to precision monitoring last quarter. Every impact above 20 pounds of force is logged and tagged to personnel IDs. She swipes her tablet. Your elbow strike registered at 87 pounds of force delivered to my facial structure. The safety threshold for training demonstrations is 30 pounds maximum. The room goes quiet again. This time it's the kind of quiet that precedes explosions. Monroe takes off his glasses, cleans them with a cloth from his pocket, puts them back on. Major, did you know about the force monitoring? Sir, yes or no? I was aware the system existed, but I didn't think... You didn't think your actions would be measured and recorded in a room specifically designed to measure and record actions. Monroe's voice stays level, which somehow makes it more devastating. Captain Voss, do you have additional evidence? She does. She has the edited video file that was sent to her side by side with the original footage, showing frame by frame how someone manipulated the security recordings to make her look incompetent. She has the email metadata, the routing information, the digital fingerprints that point back to a workstation in the SEAL instructor offices. But she doesn't present it yet. Because Cole needs to dig deeper. Cole needs to commit harder. Cole needs to do exactly what she's watched him do for 4 months. Construct an elaborate narrative that will eventually collapse under its own contradictions. "Sir, I have documentation of several irregularities," Lena says carefully, "but I'd prefer to submit them through formal channels rather than in this hearing. This matter involves more than just Monday's incident." Monroe studies her. He's not stupid. He got to Colonel by being observant and careful and politically sophisticated. He knows something larger is happening here. He just doesn't know what yet. "Captain, are you suggesting a broader investigation is warranted?" "I'm suggesting, sir, that perhaps my security clearance should be restored while you determine the scope of what needs investigating." "That's premature," Cole interjects. "We haven't even addressed her pattern of—" "Major Tanner," Monroe cuts him off, "you're dismissed. Captain Mickelson, you as well. Captain Voss, remain." They leave. Cole's face is red now, anger breaking through his usual control. Mickelson just looks relieved to escape. The door clicks shut. Monroe refills his coffee cup from the pot on the side table, takes a long drink, then sits back down. "Captain, you want to tell me what's really happening here?" "Sir?" "Don't. I've been doing this job for 23 years. I can smell an operation when I'm standing in the middle of one. So let's skip the part where you pretend to be confused and jump straight to the part where you tell me what you're actually doing on my base." Lena holds his gaze. 4-count breathing, in, hold, out, hold. "Sir, I'm not authorized to discuss certain aspects of my assignment." "Your assignment as a translator, among other things." "And these other things require you to get your face rearranged by a SEAL instructor?" "They require me to maintain certain appearances while gathering specific information." Monroe sets his coffee down. "Captain, if you're running some kind of counterintelligence operation, I need to know. This is my base, my responsibility. I don't appreciate being kept in the dark." "With respect, sir, you're not in the dark. You've been observing. You pulled Dragon Seal database queries yesterday after seeing my biometric flag. You've been waiting to see how this plays out." His expression doesn't change, but something shifts behind his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or concern. "How did you know about that query?" "Because I know who I am, sir. And I know what happens when someone with my background triggers partial matches in legacy databases. The system sends alerts. Those alerts get investigated, and investigators start asking questions about why NATO has translators with combat operator signatures." "So you are Dragon Seal." Lena doesn't confirm or deny. "Sir, I respectfully request that this conversation remain between us, at least for another 48 hours. "Why 48 hours?" "Because Major Tanner is going to escalate. He's going to make a mistake. And when he does, the evidence you need will present itself." Monroe drinks more coffee, thinking, calculating. "If I agree to this, and something goes wrong, it's my career. If you don't agree to this, a traitor stays free. Your choice, sir." They sit in silence for a full minute. Outside, the base continues its morning routine, engines starting, personnel moving between buildings, the organized chaos of a NATO facility trying to coordinate 36 nations' worth of egos and agendas. Finally, Monroe stands. 48 hours. Your clearance is restored as of now. But Captain, if Cole or anyone else ends up seriously injured, I'm burning whatever operation you're running and sorting out the pieces afterward. Understood?" "Understood, sir." "And for the record, you look like hell. Get some actual medical attention. That eye needs proper treatment." "Yes, sir." She leaves the conference room with her clearance restored and her black eye throbbing, and 48 hours to catch a traitor who spent 4 months thinking he was hunting her. The next move is his. She just has to make sure he takes it. The trap springs at 1300 hours on Thursday, 36 hours into Monroe's deadline. Lena is in the armory, running inventory checks that don't need running, when her tablet pings with a priority notification. Range qualification exercise. Mandatory attendance. All personnel rostered for advanced tactical certification. 0600 Friday morning. Live ammunition. Full combat simulation protocol. She reads it 3 times. The message comes from Captain Mickelson's office, but the routing metadata shows it originated from a different workstation. Cole's workstation. He's creating paper trails now, official documentation that will show she was invited, included, given every opportunity to participate on equal footing. Which means he's planning something that requires witnesses and plausible deniability. Grant Hayes finds her 20 minutes later in the equipment cage, checking the serial numbers on rifle optics against the master inventory list. He doesn't announce himself, just appears in her peripheral vision like a ghost who's forgotten how to be subtle. "You got the range notification," he says. Not a question. "I did." "You planning to attend?" "It's mandatory." So is common sense, but people violate that order constantly. Grant leans against the cage door, arms crossed. "Cole's setting something up. I don't know what, but the last time he scheduled a sudden mandatory qual, someone ended up with a training round in their leg. Accidental discharge, officially. Except the safety investigation found the weapon had been improperly maintained by persons unknown." Lena continues her inventory count. "You think he'll try something similar?" "I think he's desperate. Desperate men do stupid things, and you're making him look progressively more stupid with every hearing and every piece of evidence you produce." Grant pauses. "Where are you getting that evidence, by the way? The biometric force data that's not exactly accessible to translators." I asked nicely. "Right, and I'm the Archbishop of Canterbury." He pushes off the doorframe. "Look, I'm probably going to regret this, but if you need someone watching your back tomorrow, I'll be there. Off the record, purely observational." Lena finally looks up from her clipboard. "Why?" "Because I've seen what happens when good people get isolated and targeted and ground down by systems that protect the wrong individuals. And because something about you doesn't add up, Captain. Translators don't move like you move. They don't breathe like you breathe. They don't take an elbow to the face and show up the next day benching 200 pounds like it's a light warm-up. Maybe I'm just stubborn. Maybe. Or maybe you're something else entirely, and Cole Tanner stepped on a landmine when he decided you were an easy target." Grant heads for the exit, pauses at the threshold. 0600, I'll position near the observation tower. If things go wrong, I'll have eyes on." He leaves before she can respond. The armory settles back into its usual silence, broken only by the hum of climate control and the distant sound of vehicles moving across the motor pool. Lena returns to her inventory. She's checking the 37th rifle optic when her fingers brush something that shouldn't be there. A scratch on the mounting rail. Fresh. Recent. She examines it under the task light. Someone has filed down the locking mechanism, subtle enough that casual inspection wouldn't notice, but significant enough that under recoil stress, the optic might shift. Might shift right as someone is qualifying on a precision shooting test. She photographs the damage, logs it in her secure documentation folder, and continues checking. Finds 2 more rifles with similar modifications. All 3 are tagged for the Friday morning qualification exercise. So that's the play. Sabotage equipment, wait for her to fail the qualification, use the failure as evidence of incompetence. Add it to the growing file of concerns and irregularities, and reasons why Captain Voss should be reassigned to somewhere far away where she can't ask uncomfortable questions about Somalia. Lena finishes her inventory, submits the standard report that shows everything checked and accounted for, and sends a second encrypted report to an email address that doesn't officially exist. Then she goes to the range office. Mickelson is there, working through paperwork with the enthusiasm of someone who'd rather be doing literally anything else. He looks up when she enters, expression shifting immediately to defensive. "Captain Voss, if you're here about the qualification roster, I already told you. I'm here to confirm my attendance," Lena says. 0600, full combat simulation protocol. Mickelson blinks. "You're attending?" "It's mandatory." "Yes, but given your recent medical situation, I thought you might request an exemption." "No exemption needed. I'm cleared for full duty." She places a form on his desk. Medical clearance, signed and dated, officially releasing her for all training activities. "I'll need a rifle assignment. Standard issue is fine." Mickelson picks up the form, scans it, sets it down like it might explode. "Captain, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what's happening between you and Major Tanner, and I don't want to know. But if I were you, I'd be very careful tomorrow." "Careful how?" "Just careful." He pulls up the roster on his computer, types her name into the attendance log. Rifle number 23. Report to the range equipment window at 0545. Qualification starts promptly at 0600. "Understood. Thank you, Captain." She leaves him looking worried and conflicted, which is fine. Better he worries now than testifies later about how he tried to warn her. The evening passes in slow motion. Lena runs her usual perimeter circuit, 3 miles at 7-minute pace, breathing controlled despite the lingering effects of her facial injuries. The swelling has reduced, but the bruising remains, a canvas of purple and yellow that draws stares from passing personnel. At 1900 hours, she's in her quarters, cleaning her personal sidearm with the methodical precision of someone who's done this 10,000 times. Disassemble. Inspect. Clean. Lubricate. Reassemble. Function check. The ritual is meditative, her hands moving through the sequence while her mind runs through tomorrow's possibilities. Cole will try something during the qualification. Equipment failure is already set up, but he'll need more than that. He'll need witnesses who see her fail, see her struggle, see her prove his narrative about incompetence and instability, which means she needs to fail convincingly, right up until the moment she doesn't. At 2200 hours, her tablet vibrates. Encrypted message, 7 words. Somalia files unlocked. Tower 4 sends regards. She opens the attachment. It's a complete mission debrief from September 2019, the operation that officially never happened, the one that cost 11 Dragon Seal operators their lives and created the vacancy that allowed Cole Tanner to build a legend on borrowed valor. The coordinates are there, the radio logs, the time-stamped communications showing Cole receiving correct grid references and transmitting altered ones, the investigation that was buried, the classification order that sealed the files and erased Dragon Seal from official records. Everything she's needed for 4 months, delivered 36 hours before she needs it. Lena reads every page twice, memorizing details, cross-referencing timestamps, building the mental map that will transform tomorrow's range qualification from a test of marksmanship into a test of something much more fundamental. At 2300 hours, she sleeps. 4 hours. Dreamless. The kind of rest that comes from knowing exactly what's going to happen and exactly how it needs to end. 0545 arrives cold and dark. Lena reports to the range equipment window, presents her ID, receives rifle number 23. It's one of the sabotaged weapons. She checks the serial number twice to be sure, runs her thumb across the filed mounting rail, feels the damage that's designed to make her fail. She says nothing, just signs the equipment log and moves to the range staging area. 15 personnel are gathered, a mix of nationalities and specialties. Grant Hayes is positioned near the observation tower exactly where he said he'd be, binoculars hanging around his neck, tablet in hand. Cole Tanner stands at the range master position, clipboard and stopwatch ready, wearing his instructor face like armor. Monroe is there too, standing apart from the group near the control booth, coffee cup in hand, expression unreadable. "All right, people," Cole announces, voice carrying across the range with practiced authority. "Today's qualification is standard NATO precision protocol. 10 rounds, 200 meters, 10 targets. You have 60 seconds to engage all targets. Minimum score for qualification is 7 hits. Any questions?" No one speaks. The cold morning air carries the smell of gun oil and frost. Somewhere in the distance, a helicopter runs pre-flight checks, rotors beating a slow rhythm against the dark sky. "Captain Voss," Cole says, consulting his clipboard, "you're first up." Of course she is. Maximum visibility, maximum witness exposure, maximum opportunity for public failure. Lena steps to the firing line, takes her position, checks her rifle. The optic is loose, exactly as expected. She makes a show of adjusting it, twisting the mounting screws, testing the stability. It shifts under pressure. Anyone watching can see the problem. She looks at Cole. "Sir, the optic mount appears damaged." Cole walks over, examines the rifle with theatrical concern. "Looks fine to me, Captain. You sure you're not just unfamiliar with the equipment?" "Sir, the mounting rail has been compromised. The optic won't hold 0 under recoil." "Captain, this weapon passed inspection yesterday. If you're uncomfortable with standard NATO equipment, perhaps that's something we should note in your qualification record." He steps back, crosses his arms. "You have 60 seconds starting on my mark. Ready?" Lena settles into her firing position. Cheek to stock, breathing controlled, 4-count pattern. The optic wobbles in her sight picture, useless for precision work at 200 meters. She'll have to shoot with iron sights, which means ignoring the optic entirely, which means looking like she doesn't know how to use modern equipment, unless she does something else entirely. "Ready," she confirms. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute." She fires 10 rounds in 47 seconds. Smooth, controlled, each shot placed with deliberate precision, despite the damaged optic that's bouncing in its mount with every recoil pulse. The rifle reports echo across the range, flat cracks in the cold morning air. "Cease fire," Cole calls. "Targets forward." The electronic target carrier whirs, bringing the paper downrange for scoring. Cole walks to examine the results, still carrying his clipboard, still wearing his confident expression. That expression changes when he sees the grouping. 10 rounds, 10 hits, 9 in the center ring, 1 just outside, clipping the 9 ring. Total score, 98 out of 100 possible points, with a rifle that should have made precision shooting nearly impossible. Cole stares at the target for 5 full seconds. Then he turns to Lena. How? She ejects the magazine, clears the chamber, engages the safety. Sir, could you clarify the question? The optic was clearly malfunctioning. I saw it shifting. Yes, sir, so I used iron sights instead. Standard backup aiming system. Any operator familiar with their weapon should be able to transition between optic and irons without significant degradation of accuracy. The silence on the range is absolute. Grant Hayes has his binoculars up, watching this exchange. Monroe has set down his coffee cup. The other 14 personnel are frozen in various states of attention, sensing that something significant is happening but not quite understanding what. Cole's jaw works. You're telling me you shot expert marksman scores at 200 meters using iron sights in under a minute? 98 out of 100, sir. Just shy of expert. But yes, iron sights, 200 meters, 47 seconds. She holds out the rifle. Would you like to inspect the weapon to verify the optic damage? He takes it, examines the mounting rail, sees the filed metal, realizes that she just documented equipment sabotage in front of 15 witnesses while simultaneously demonstrating capability that far exceeds anything a translator should possess. Where did you learn to shoot like that? His voice has changed. Less instructor now, more interrogator. Various assignments, sir. Be specific. Sir, some aspects of my service record are classified above your clearance level. I'm not authorized to discuss them in an open setting. Monroe steps forward. His timing is perfect, which means he's been waiting for this exact moment. Major Tanner, I think we need to have a conversation. Now. Control booth. Cole doesn't move. He's staring at Lena like he's seeing her for the first time, pattern recognition finally clicking into place. The grip, the breathing, the combat conditioning, the 4 months of absorbing his abuse without breaking, the way she shoots like someone who's done it professionally for years. Captain Voss, he says slowly, who exactly are you? She meets his gaze with her one fully functional eye, the other still ringed in fading bruises. I'm a translator, sir, linguistics specialist, NATO liaison. That's what my orders say. That's not what I asked. It's the answer I'm authorized to give. If you're connecting the dots right now, you're not alone. The pieces are falling into place, and what comes next will redefine everything you thought you knew about this story. Hit that subscribe button because the reveal is seconds away, and you do not want to miss what happens when a translator stops translating and starts demonstrating exactly who she really is. Drop a like if you're ready to see Cole's world collapse. Monroe's voice cuts through the tension. Major, control booth. That's an order. They walk away. Lena stands at the firing line, rifle returned to the equipment window while the remaining 14 personnel process what they just witnessed. Grant Hayes approaches, binoculars still hanging around his neck. That was the most aggressive display of competence I've ever seen, he says quietly. You just made Cole look like an amateur in his own specialty. He made himself look like an amateur. I just shot accurately. With iron sights, at 200 meters, in under a minute, after someone sabotaged your equipment. Grant glances toward the control booth where Cole and Monroe are having what appears to be a vigorous discussion. You knew about the damage before you got to the line. I inspect my equipment, standard protocol. And you didn't report it because you wanted to demonstrate capability under adverse conditions. You wanted everyone here to see you succeed despite sabotage. He shakes his head slowly. You're not running from Cole. You're hunting him. Lena says nothing, just watches the control booth where 2 figures are gesturing, one aggressive, one controlled. Grant follows her gaze. What happens now? Now we wait for him to make the final mistake. Which is? Attacking when he should retreat. The explosion comes at 1400 hours, not literal explosion, legal explosion. Cole Tanner files a formal security complaint alleging that Captain Lena Voss has falsified her service credentials, misrepresented her qualifications, and may be operating under fraudulent orders. He demands immediate investigation, suspension of her clearances, and confinement to quarters pending resolution. He files it through official channels, copies it to NATO command, CCs half a dozen senior officers, makes it loud and public and impossible to ignore, which is exactly what she's been waiting for. Because now the investigation he's demanding will have to look at everything. His allegations, her credentials, the equipment sabotage, the Somalia mission files, the coordination between events on this base and operations that officially never happened. Monroe summons them both at 1600 hours. Same conference room, same table, different atmosphere. This time, there's a third person present. A woman in civilian clothes carrying a briefcase and an expression that suggests she's done this particular dance many times before. Major Tanner, Captain Voss, Monroe says. This is Ms. Andrea Chen from NATO Security Investigations. Major Tanner has filed serious allegations. Ms. Chen is here to conduct preliminary assessment. Cole straightens. Ma'am, I appreciate the rapid response. Captain Voss has demonstrated capabilities that don't align with her stated position. I believe her credentials should be— Major, Chen interrupts, opening her briefcase. I've reviewed your complaint. I've also reviewed Captain Voss's service record. The complete record, not just the portions visible at your clearance level. She produces a tablet, turns it toward Cole. Do you know what Dragon Seal was? The color drains from Cole's face. I've heard rumors. Black Ops unit, supposedly dissolved after a failed mission in Somalia, September 2019. 11 operators killed due to compromised intelligence and altered tactical coordinates. Chen's voice stays professionally neutral. The unit was officially disbanded and scrubbed from active records. Classification level, top secret, compartmentalized, need to know only. Cole's hands are on the table now, fingers pressed flat like he's trying to steady himself. I don't understand what this has to do with— Captain Voss was Dragon Seal's commanding officer. She survived Somalia, barely, spent 4 months in classified medical treatment. When she returned to duty, Dragon Seal no longer officially existed, so she was reassigned. Linguistics specialist, NATO liaison, translator. Chen turns the tablet toward Lena. Would you like to tell Major Tanner why you've been on his base for 4 months pretending to be something you're not? Lena looks at Cole. His face has gone from red to white to gray. She can see the moment when he realizes what's happening, when he understands that every insult, every act of sabotage, every piece of evidence he's collected has been carefully documented and preserved. I'm here, Lena says quietly, because someone altered coordinates during the Somalia operation. Someone who was attached to our mission as tactical liaison, someone who panicked under fire and changed grid references to protect himself, which sent my 11 teammates into an ambush instead of extraction. Cole is shaking his head. No, I was cleared. The investigation was buried. Classification order, sealed records. Dragon Seal got scrubbed, and with it, all evidence of what really happened. Lena leans forward. But I survived, and I remembered. And for 4 months I've watched you, Major. Watched your patterns. Watched how you target people you perceive as weak. Watched how you sabotage and manipulate and lie. She produces her tablet, queues up video files, equipment modifications, the edited footage sent to discredit her, the routing data showing his workstation as origin point, the Somalia mission logs with coordinate discrepancies highlighted. You tried to bury me the same way you buried my team. But this time, there are cameras, biometric sensors, digital trails. She turns the tablet toward Chen. Everything's documented. Every lie, every act of sabotage, every piece of the pattern that shows you're not just a bully. You're a traitor who got 11 operators killed and then built a career on their graves. The conference room is silent except for the air conditioning and the distant sound of someone's radio crackling in the corridor outside. Cole's voice comes out barely above a whisper. You planned this, all of it. You let me target you just so you could gather evidence, Lena finishes. Yes, because accusations without proof are just noise. But 4 months of documented harassment, equipment sabotage, and pattern matching with a classified operation? That's a case. That's justice. Chen closes her briefcase. Major Tanner, you're confined to quarters effective immediately. Criminal Investigation Division will take custody within the hour. Captain Voss, Colonel Monroe, you'll both need to provide full statements. This is now a formal inquiry into the Somalia operation, equipment tampering, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Cole lunges across the table, not with calculation, not with tactical thinking, just raw panic and rage. His hand reaches for Lena's throat, fingers extended, desperation making him stupid. She moves without thinking, muscle memory taking over. Her left hand intercepts his wrist, redirecting momentum. Her right hand comes up under his elbow, applying pressure exactly where the joint can't resist. She rotates, steps offline, and Cole's own forward motion puts him face down on the conference table with his arm locked at an angle that makes resistance impossible. The entire sequence takes less than 2 seconds. Zero injury, minimal force, textbook defensive control technique. Lena holds him there while Monroe hits the panic button that summons security. Her voice is perfectly calm. "Major Tanner, stop resisting." "You set me up," he gasps into the table surface. "You manipulative. I created conditions where you revealed your true character. There's a difference." She maintains the control hold, pressure constant, but not excessive. 11 people died because of your cowardice. 11 teammates who trusted the intelligence you provided. I've lived with that for 4 years. You're going to live with it for considerably longer. Security arrives. 4 MPs. They take custody of Cole with professional efficiency, cuffing him, reading him rights, escorting him out of the conference room while he's still trying to argue that this is all a misunderstanding. When the door closes, Monroe sits down heavily. 4 months, he says. You played translator for 4 months just to catch him. I played translator for 4 months to gather evidence that would survive legal challenge. Accusations can be dismissed. Documented patterns can't. Lena straightens her uniform, which didn't even wrinkle during the takedown. Sir, I apologize for the deception, but Dragon Seal officially doesn't exist. I couldn't exactly announce my presence and expect him to cooperate. Chen is making notes on her tablet. Captain Voss, you'll need to provide detailed testimony about both Somalia and the events here. This investigation is going to take months, possibly years. Understood. You'll also need to undergo medical evaluation. Those injuries, she gestures at Lena's still bruised face, need documentation for the court-martial proceedings. Already documented, complete biometric records from the training room incident, medical reports, photographic evidence. Chen almost smiles. You really did think of everything. I had 4 years to plan and 4 months to execute. Thoroughness becomes a habit. Monroe stands, extends his hand. Captain, I don't know whether to commend you or discipline you. That was either the most professional undercover operation I've ever witnessed or the most elaborate personal vendetta. Lena shakes his hand. Sir, it was both justice and accountability. Sometimes they look the same. Sometimes. He releases her hand, picks up his coffee cup, realizes it's been empty for an hour. Dragon Seal is being reconstituted. Tower 4 Task Force. NATO wants you to command it. They made that decision about 6 hours ago, pending resolution of this situation. Sir, I haven't been offered. I'm offering now. 3 bases. 3 more individuals who need investigation. Same pattern Cole showed. Same tactics. Tower 4's mission is to identify and remove security threats operating under official cover. Monroe sets down his empty cup. You interested? Lena considers. The Somalia coordinates are still burned into her memory. 11 names, 11 teammates, 11 reasons why justice matters more than comfort. I'm interested, sir. I'm good. Report to Brussels for briefing Monday morning. Until then, take 72 hours, rest, heal, do whatever you need to do. Monroe heads for the door, pauses. And Captain, next time you plan a 4-month undercover operation on my base, maybe give me more than 48 hours notice before the climax. I'll take that under advisement, sir. He leaves. Chen follows. Lena stands alone in the conference room, looking at the table where Cole Tanner's career ended and her mission concluded. Her tablet vibrates. Message from Grant Hayes. 4 words. Drinks tonight, you're buying. She almost smiles. Almost. The memorial ceremony happens 3 weeks later at NATO headquarters in Brussels. 11 names added to the wall. 11 plaques engraved with Dragon Seal insignias. 11 moments of silence for operators who officially never existed until their deaths could no longer be denied. Lena stands in dress uniform, ribbons aligned, face finally healed. The bruises have faded, the swelling is gone. Only a thin scar on her lip remains, barely visible unless you're looking for it. She touches the first plaque. Her second in command. Marcus Reed, 28 years old. Dead because Cole Tanner changed coordinates to protect himself. Monroe appears beside her. The court-martial is scheduled for August. Chen says they have enough evidence to prosecute on 14 separate charges. Treason, obstruction, equipment tampering, assault. He's looking at life. Good. Tower 4 brief is ready when you are. 3 targets. Germany, Italy, Poland. Same pattern. Authority figures exploiting their positions. They're expecting you Monday. I'll be there. Monroe nods, moves away to speak with other attendees. Lena stays at the wall, hand resting on Marcus Reed's plaque, thinking about Somalia and sacrifice and the long patience required to bring truth into light. A woman approaches, civilian clothes, mid-40s, carrying a folder marked with classification stamps. She doesn't introduce herself, just hands Lena the folder. Tower 4 operational parameters, 3 targets. Estimated timeline, 6 months per target. Rules of engagement are flexible. You're authorized to establish cover identities as needed. The woman glances at the memorial wall. Your team died because someone valued self-preservation over honor. Make sure their deaths meant something. She leaves before Lena can respond. The folder contains 3 dossiers, 3 names, 3 bases where patterns of harassment and sabotage suggest deeper corruption. 3 more operations where she'll need to appear weak while gathering strength. 3 more chances to prove that justice isn't loud. It's patient. Lena looks at the memorial wall one final time. 11 names. 11 promises she just made. She turns and walks away from the ceremony, folder under her arm, already planning the next mission. Behind her, engraved in bronze, the dragon seal motto catches the light. Silent Guardians. Patient Justice. On the wall beside the plaques, barely visible unless you know to look, someone has scratched 4 words into the stone. Tower 4 sends regards.
Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVB Story for more.